Are you tired of the secular news? Do you want a Christian view of politics? Do you want to know what is going on in your Christian community? Your wait is over. Welcome to the InterMountain Christian News Hour. Here is your host, Dr. Anthony Harper.
Hi, I'm Dr. Anthony Harper, InterMountain Christian News Hour, and this is a hot day today. Even though it's cold outside and raining, we've got the hot issue about this movie coming out this summer, and that is Obama's America 2016. And I have Alan Jones with me. And Alan, thanks for joining me.
Oh, good to be here. Thanks for having me, Dr. Harper. It's great to be a part of the InterMountain Christian News. This is going to be a very exciting day today with our caller.
Yes, actually, I mentioned that we will have Dinesh to call us in today. And Dinesh, I would ask for could you call another number? You're going to be joining us very soon. And just to call in the number, area code 208-377-3790.
There we go. While he's getting that straightened out here.
Call me right back on that number, and you will be joining us. Dinesh D'Souza will be calling in. That's once again 208-377-3790, and we'll wait for your call. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, now we know, for those of you who do know who Dinesh D'Souza is, he will be online with us in just a moment. And
that's a surprise, because sometimes our callers, for somehow, they don't have our number, our call-in number, but he has it, and that's what that was all about. So Dinesh D'Souza has a best-selling book, New York Times best-selling book that this movie is based on. He's calling in from New York City, and we are so thankful to have Dinesh D'Souza with us today. So, Dinesh, are you there?
I'm here.
Yeah, thank you for calling. I'm glad I answered that call on the other line, because I was really looking forward to this interview, and we are blessed that you called in. And my co-host here is Alan Jones, and we both are concerned about America. So,
hello, Mr. D'Souza. It is a pleasure to have you on this program with us today.
Thank you. I'm glad to be joining you.
Yeah. So we, I don't remember how I heard about the movie coming up. Maybe it was through onenewsnow.com or some news source. But I was excited about this opportunity to have a movie nationwide about the concerns of our leadership. So, what would you say is summing up? What is the premise of the movie, and its major points?
The premise of the movie is, who is Barack Obama? The thing about Obama is that he came into office in 2008, and he was probably the most unknown guy to ever enter the Oval Office. Remember, just a couple of years earlier, he was an unknown state senator in Illinois. And so he was an unknown quantity. But interestingly, now that he's almost at the end of his first term, I still don't think that the American people have a clear sense of what drives Obama, what is his underlying compass. So the movie is really the Obama story. It's filmed in Hawaii and Indonesia and Kenya, and London and Chicago. It essentially raises the curtain on who Obama really is. And the reason that the film is called 2016 is because, in a sense, the underlying question we're asking is, what would America look like in 2016, 4 years from now, if Obama were to be given a second term?
That's really depressing to think about.
Well, you have to look at what he's done in the first term, of course. And, remember in 1980, I remember Reagan raising the question with Jimmy Carter, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? And I think if we were to put that question both to most Americans and to America as a country, we'd have to say no. America is worse off economically, in terms of gas prices, food prices, in terms of real estate values, in terms of so many, our debt was $10 trillion when Obama took office. It's now $15 trillion. Will probably be close to $20 trillion in 4 more years. So this guy has been a real, in a sense, rather remarkable, very influential as a president, but I wouldn't say for the better.
No, definitely not what the liberal media are telling us, and that's where a lot of people get confused. because they are, like my wife calls them, headline voters. And they just hear that stuff out there, and they think things are better.
Well, even the press has been sort of, every time the stock market turns up a little bit, or every time the unemployment rate goes down a notch. But the fact of the matter is, unemployment was something like 7.5% when Obama took office. Now he's been throwing money at that problem. He's had bailouts, and he's had stimulus, and he's had all kinds of efforts to sort of boost the economy. And the unemployment rate now is higher than it was 4 years ago. So nobody's saying that that we're not expecting Obama to bring it down to 2%, but it's not unreasonable to expect that after you've poured all this money down a black hole, that the unemployment rate would at least be less, but instead it's higher.
I was really discouraged, and I'm discouraged about our nation in general that would think that economy would be the number one priority. It should be our morality. I was there, I don't know if you were, but I was back at the White House press conferences, Dinesh, last summer to try to ask President Obama a question, and that is, about the issue about the economy. Our economy is just a symptom of an underlying problem. We have a spiritual problem as a nation, and you're familiar with Governor Perry?
Yes.
He led the controversial National Day of Prayer and Fasting last summer, and people were angry with him for being involved with that event. But Governor Perry was saying that, and I agree with this, that our nation's in serious trouble, and throwing money at a problem is not going to cure the problem. We have to deal with that underlying spiritual, the moral problem is that our leadership does not honor God.
Well, I think that we've had a cultural and moral crisis in this country now for really since the late 1960s. It's been a developing problem. I think what makes, Obama perhaps a little different is that he's taking the problem to a new level. He's doing things that even traditional Democrats don't do. So, for example, traditional Democrats might support abortion, or they might support gay rights. But one of the things Obama's been doing is he's been using U.S. foreign aid as a truncheon with which to beat poor countries in Asia and Africa and basically say, listen, if you don't accept gay rights, we're going to cut off your funding. So he's bullying these poor countries, which have traditional morality, often taken from Christianity, sometimes even from Islam, and he's basically saying, unless you adopt the gay agenda, we're going to be... So the United States is becoming identified as a kind of apostle of gay rights around the world, terrifying these small countries which don't have the power to resist it.
It was interesting that I had a conversation with a Muslim recently at our local university. I was amazed to hear him say that he was so saddened that America left its Christian heritage, that he realized that the messages were coming out of Hollywood are signs that we have left our foundation. As a nation, we tolerate so much immorality, and it is so sad to see America fall. And so this movie... I should say, by the way, the movie website is 2016themovie.com. Is that correct?
Exactly. If you go on that site, you can watch a trailer for the film. I also gave a short 15-minute talk at CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Committee, which kind of lays out the mystery of Obama. And so you can watch the trailer and you can listen to the talk. The talk, by the way, has gone viral on the web. It's been watched by over 1 million people. So there's a lot of interest in this topic. I think in part because there's been a lot of election debate going on, but the underlying question of Obama's motivating philosophy that has gone sort of ignored. And then there's just a lot of personal stuff about Obama that we don't know. We don't know his grades at Columbia. We've never seen his thesis. He talks about dating a girl for a year, and he describes this in some detail in his book Dreams from My Father. But no woman has ever come forward and said, I am that girl. No reporter has ever mentioned her name. So I think what's odd about Obama is that this guy has just not had the normal levels of examination and scrutiny that we would expect of any president, Republican or Democrat.
Yes, he's definitely gotten away with keeping just about everything secret. Can you tell us how long were you working on this movie?
Well, I published a book in 2010 called The Roots of Obama's Rage. I did the cover story in Forbes, the business magazine, that adapted from the book. And the book created a big debate. The White House got involved, and a lot of media got involved. That's when I got the idea of doing the film. I remember that in 2004, Michael Moore did the film Fahrenheit 9/11 and dropped it right in the middle of the 2004 election, and it generated a big debate. So I thought, you know what? I don't want to be, I don't want to be as dumb as Michael Moore, but I think I could make a smart film and drop it in the middle of this election debate. So that's what gave me the idea. I've been working on it for about a year. I found a really great partner, which is the producer Jerry Molen, M-O-L-E-N. Molen's a Hollywood guy. He's a partner of Steven Spielberg, and the two of them, I mean, he's made a whole bunch of major Hollywood films, from Jurassic Park to Hook to Schindler's List. So we have a very top-flight team putting this film together, and I think it will be a conservative film that is of a higher quality than any conservative film that's been previously made.
I'm assuming you are aware of some other movies that have been rocking the country, like Ray Comfort and the movie 180.
Sure.
Yeah, 180, and of course, there was a good educational movie that was called Monumental. You've heard of that?
Yep.
Kirk Cameron. And what about Agenda, Grinding America Down?
I don't know that one. I mean, there are a lot of documentaries out there. Some of them are released on the web. Some of them go straight to DVD. As you know, there are not a lot of documentaries that make it in the theater. Al Gore's film, of course, An Inconvenient Truth, did, and of course, Michael Moore has the support of the Hollywood studios, so he was able to do that. I think our film's going to come out in the theater in the summer and then come out in DVD in the fall, and it will have a lot of media behind it, and so it's going to generate, I think, a lot of debate.
I think about when the movie Passion came out.
Sure.
Yeah, and there was a lot of curiosity about that, and actually there were a lot of Muslims that were wanting to go see this movie. It created quite a stir and controversy because it would appear like it's anti-Jewish, so maybe that's why the Muslim people would want to go to it. But that was quite a lot of controversy. You remember that? So
well, that film was I think interesting to me because it was the film. Of course, Mel Gibson was involved with it, but it really wasn't a film made by the Hollywood studios. It was the kind of film that Hollywood would not have made. And yet it was massively successful because conservatives and Christians went out to see it, and like you say, abroad, probably Muslims as well. So our film is trying to do something of the same thing. It's an independent film. It's going outside of the Hollywood machine. I mean, we have an insider in Molen, our producer, from Hollywood, who will help us navigate. But by and large, we're making an end run around Hollywood and going straight to the theaters like Regal and AMC and Cinemark and so on to get the film widely distributed.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. What are some of the other side? What are they saying about the movie?
Well, they haven't had a chance to weigh in on it yet. So I would say that when my book came out, there was a big debate. John, the New York Times wrote. Maureen Dowd had an article about it, and Chris Matthews, and they even trotted out Joe Biden on TV and Colin Powell to talk about the ideas in my book. The film is loosely based on the book, but of course the book came out in 2010, so it was kind of only based on the first 2 years of the Obama presidency. Now we have the full 4-year term. So we've previewed the film by showing a trailer that's out there, but the film is actually in post-production. It's not completely done yet. So no one's seen it yet, and so the left has been kind of hanging back, not knowing what to say because they don't know what's in the film.
Well, we sure appreciate you in your dedication to getting the truth out about our country. We are seriously in trouble. I know you would agree with that. And we really want, and I hope and pray that our country will return to our Christian heritage because did you see the Monumental movie?
No, but I know about it.
Yes, it was a great history lesson about truly our Christian heritage. And, of course, I'm assuming you probably know David Barton.
I certainly do. He's spoken at our church here. I live in Rancho Santa Fe in California, and David's spoken at our church, and we've met in New York. I'm the president, by the way, of a Christian college called the King's College in New York City.
Yes, I heard that.
So, yeah, I appreciate David Barton's work. I mean, one thing that to me that's been a little bit odd about Obama is that not once or twice by mistake, but on multiple times when he quotes the Declaration of Independence, he leaves out under our Creator, endowed by our Creator. He'll just say endowed with inalienable rights. Now, I mean, leaving aside what one's religious beliefs are, that's just historically inaccurate and intellectually a bit of a scandal, that you're quoting the Declaration of Independence, but you're leaving parts of it out because you don't seem to approve of them or want them included. So this kind of thing, I think, is what I mean when I say that what we're in a political season that goes beyond the normal bounds of politics. And I think the American people aren't fully aware of this, in part because Obama is the first African-American president, so he has a certain kind of a immunity from scrutiny and criticism that you wouldn't, that, say, a Jimmy Carter didn't have or Bill Clinton didn't have.
Yeah, and that is just so fair now, isn't it? Anyway, we won't get on top of that. But for some of our listeners out there who may not be very familiar with you, can you talk about some of the other best-selling books that you had, other than like The Roots of Obama's Rage, and you have The End of Racism, and all these other books?
I'm an immigrant to the United States. I grew up in India. I came to America in 1978. I'm actually the same age as Obama, oddly enough. I was at Dartmouth when he was at Columbia, and I went on to the Reagan White House, where I was a policy analyst for a couple of years. I've been at the Hoover Institution at Stanford. I'm now the president of a college. So I should say about this film, by the way, that it's not just a bashing of Obama or don't vote for Obama, but it's really more of a, look, I'm an educator. We don't really know who this guy is. Let's go on a journey and figure out who Obama is. Let's apply the knowledge we get to what he's been doing, and let's get a better idea of what the direction is that he wants to take America. So that's really what the film's about. My earlier books, I wrote a patriotic book called What's So Great About America. I also wrote a book called What's So Great About Christianity. I spend a lot of time actually debating leading atheists around the country. I've been debating a number of prominent, I did about 10 debates with probably America's leading atheist, Christopher Hitchens, on various campuses around America. So in some ways I divide my life. I'm a Christian apologist and defender on the one hand, and on the other hand, I also like to write and speak and think about issues of American culture and politics.
Are you aware of our local apologist we have here in Boise, Idaho? His name is Matt Slick.
I'm sorry to say I don't know him, but that's not to say I might not have read some of his stuff. Well,
he has a hot program here, an apologist. Actually, he had a lively interview with the author of the Shack book, if you know who Paul Young is.
I remember The Shack, and of course that was a very interesting book, somewhat controversial, as you know, among Christians, but nevertheless a very readable book, and of course a massive bestseller. So that's very interesting to hear about.
And I'm sure you would agree that we really have a lack of discernment in America. And we know Obama got into power. I mean, a lot of people don't know very much about him, but there's a lot of charismatic appearance of him. But what really bothered me so much, Dinesh, about him was seeing that arrogant smile. It didn't seem right at all. I just felt nervous when I saw that smile. And,
well, I think he feels, that what that smile basically conveys is, I've put one over on you, and it's sort of a smile that says, I've got enough people covering for me that no matter what you think about me, I'm still going to get away with it. That's my interpretation of that smile.
We also had an interview with Kitty Wertham, and she was alive when Hitler came to power. And she had an article in our paper called After America, There's No Place to Go. And she shared when she saw that arrogant smile, that smile from Obama, that she was living the horror of Hitler's early days when he was so charismatic and using change as a word for his campaign.
Well, I wouldn't push the Hitler analogy too far, but I do think that the point about after America is an interesting one. You know, in the past, if we look at the baton of Western leadership, it went from the Portuguese to the Spanish to the French to the English, and after World War II, that leadership role was handed to America. But we have no one to hand it to. So if America goes down, I think it's probably fair to say that the 21st century will now belong to China and perhaps India. It's moving toward the east. We're sort of the last best hope of Western civilization.
It is so sad how that America has how we have shifted in outsourcing a lot of our jobs. We need to have a lot of good jobs in America, and it's America used to be a great producer of goods and all that, but we've seen a lot of this outsourcing. We've become weaker as a nation, and I guess Dinesh, my concern is about China. You know, about the major concern what's happening there. You're familiar with Bible prophecy that refers to 100 million man army and the colors of red and crimson and sulfur?
Well, I know that the Chinese have boasted that that with 1 billion people and more, they can put that many people into the field. And so that doesn't surprise me at all. And we haven't talked so much about foreign policy. We do in the film, and not just about China. We also talk about the Arab Spring. To me, one thing that's interesting about the uprisings that we've seen in so many Muslim countries is that in some of them, like Libya, Obama has used force. In others, like Syria, he has refused to use force. In a country like Egypt, he uses diplomacy to get rid of our ally, Mubarak, and the replacement has been the Muslim Brotherhood, a kind of radical Muslim group, and with other radicals, even more radical groups in tow. And so Obama has been very odd, very selective in when he uses force and when he doesn't. And so for these reasons, I think that there's something going on. No one on the left or the right has really explained why Obama uses force over here but not over there, why he intervenes in this country but refuses to intervene in that country. So one of the things I think our film can do is just help people, even supporters of Obama, understand better where this guy is coming from.
You know, the reason I mentioned earlier about Agenda, the documentary, and by the way, the website is agendadocumentary.com. It's by a former Idaho legislator here, Curtis Bowers. He's talking about the reason these things are happening. There's an agenda. This is a planned, a purpose to weaken America, destroy the family, and it happens through redefining marriage with homosexual marriage. But there's definitely a specific plan in place of our leadership to eliminate Christianity's influence, threaten the church. Of course, as Dinesh, you're aware, of course, the Health and Human Services mandate putting pressure on the Christian denominations about the abortion issue.
Yeah, I know, and when it comes to the hidden agenda too, I mean, we saw a really revealing look at this just about a couple of weeks ago when Obama was meeting with the outgoing Russian Prime Minister Medvedev, and Obama tells him, "Hey, listen, go tell Putin that I need more flexibility, I need more space to talk about missile defense. So you got to give me till after the election." What Obama's really saying is he's basically saying, listen, if the American people knew now what I want to do, I might not be reelected. But wait till I'm reelected, and then I can perhaps give you more than I can announce now. So my point is, we know there's a hidden agenda. We may not know exactly what that is, but that single episode makes it very clear that Obama is nervous that if he were to tell the American people what he's doing, the American people may oppose him.
And he even made a comment about that just a short time ago about how he would have more leeway, more latitude in his next term if he gets elected. Did you hear that comment that he made?
Oh, sure. Well, he also had a comment basically to Latino groups, basically saying, listen, in the first term I couldn't do it, but I think I'll be able to tackle immigration in the second term now. What he didn't say was, in the second term, any president is much less tied to public opinion. They're not going to be running for re-election again. They can sort of do more of what they want, whereas in the first term, you always have, if you want to be re-elected, you've got to watch and make sure that the popularity ratings aren't sinking too low. So Obama will be, in some ways, a free man in the second term.
Well, that's scary, isn't it?
it's scary depending on where you think he's going to go. You know, there's probably some people who think this is wonderful. Obama's going to take us to the promised land, but I am not one of those people.
It's not so promised. We invite people to. Actually, we're almost out of time, Dinesh, and we do appreciate you calling in. I had failed to know that we were almost out of time, but we do invite people to check out your website, 2016themovie.com. And Dinesh, thank you for joining us. I sure would love to have you back on our program again.
It's been a pleasure.
Do you have any plans of coming to Idaho anytime in the near future?
You know, I might. We'll be doing a promotional tour for the film, and so I don't quite know where that's going to take me, but I certainly hope it brings me your way.
Well, we do too, and you can let us know.
Thank you for calling in. We appreciate you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. And we invite our listeners to check out our sponsors' webpage, livingwatersranch.org. They support our Good News paper, and we are so thankful for Christopher and Debbie James. So, livingwatersranch.org. Thank you for tuning in today, and we'll be back tomorrow.
Wow.